the man soliloquized, quoting from the saloon keeper's letter which had announced the consignment of the crate and contents. "Well, Buck, my boy," he went on in a genial voice, "we've had our little ruction, and the best thing we can do is to let it go at that. You've learned your place, and I know mine. Be a good dog, and all will go well, and the goose hang high. Be a bad dog, and I'll whale the stuffing out of you. Understand?" As he spoke, he fearlessly patted the head he had so mercilessly pounded, and though Buck's hair involuntarily bristled at a touch of the hand, he endured it without protest. When the man brought him water, he drank eagerly and later bolted a generous meal of raw meat, chunk by chunk, from the man's hand. He was beaten, he knew that, but he was not broken. He saw, once for all, that he stood no chance against a man with a club. He had learned the lesson, and in all his afterlife, he never forgot it. That club was a revelation. It was his introduction to the reign of primitive law, and he met the introduction halfway. The facts of life took on a fiercer aspect, and while he faced that aspect uncowed, he faced it with all the latent cunning of his nature aroused. As the days went by, other dogs came in crates and at the ends of ropes, some docilely and some raging and roaring as he had come, and, one and all, he watched them pass under the dominion of the man in the red sweater. Again and again, as he looked at each brutal performance, the lesson was driven home to Buck. A man with a club was a lawgiver, a master to be obeyed, though not necessarily conciliated. Of this last, Buck was never guilty, though he did see beaten dogs that fawned upon the man and wagged their tails. At such times that money passed between them, the strangers took one or more of the dogs away with them. Buck wondered where they went, for they never came back, but the fear of the future was strong upon him, and he was glad each time when he was not selected. Yet his time came, in the end, in the form of a little weazened man who spat broken English and many strange and uncouth exclamations which Buck could not understand. "Sacre dame!" he cried, when his eyes lit upon Buck. "That one damn bully dog, huh? How much?" 300 and a present at that, was the prompt reply of the man in the red sweater. "And seeing it's government money, you ain't got no kick coming, eh, Perrault?" Perrault grinned, considering that the price of dogs had been boomed skyward by the unwonted demand. It was not an unfair sum for so fine an animal. The Canadian government would be no loser, nor would its dispatches travel the slower. Perrault knew dogs, and when he looked at Buck, he knew that he was 1 in 1,000. 1 in 10,000, he commented mentally. Buck saw money pass between them, and was not surprised when Curly, a good-natured Newfoundland, and he were led away by the little weazened man. That was the last he saw of the man in the red sweater, and as Curly and he looked at receding Seattle from the deck of the narwhal, it was the last he saw of the warm Southland. Curly and he were taken below by Perrault, and turned over to a black-faced giant called Francois. Perrault was a French-Canadian and swarthy, but Francois was a French-Canadian half-breed, and twice as swarthy. They were a new kind of men to Buck, of which he was destined to see many more, and while he developed no affection for them, he nonetheless grew honestly to respect them. He speedily learned that Perrault and Francois were fair men, calm and impartial in administering justice, and too wise in the way of dogs to be fooled by dogs. In the 'tween decks of the narwhal, Buck and Curly joined 2 other dogs. One of them was a big snow-white fellow from Spitzbergen, who had been brought away by a whaling.
Sad ćemo čuti kako to čita synthesizer.
Futurama each time when he was not selected at his time we came. Futurama each time when he was not selected it is
Sad je usporeno na pola normalne. Svaki drugi put uspori na pola normalne. Sad će govoriti normalnom brzinom.
Futurama each time when he was not selected it is time we came in the end in the form of a little reasons Matt respect broken English and many strange and untrue. But could not understand what is looked upon by that one band bully dog how much 300 on the president that was the prompt reply of the man in the red sweater and it's government money you ain't got no. Program considering the price of dogs have been booming skyward by the I'm going to demand it was not an unfair something for some governments would be no more what his dispatches travel the slowest he knew that he was gone mentally Shawnee passed between them was not surprised when a good-natured Newfoundland heat wave that was last I saw of the man in the red sweater and is currently in there. Preceding Seattle from the deck of the narwhale it was the last he saw of the war and he was a French-Canadian that's what France was a French-Canadian anymore.
Na desnoj je strani prijevod, tako da s interneta možemo slušati i samo govore ako nema hrvatskog prijevoda, a onda na ovaj način doći do tog prijevoda koji eto još uvijek je daleko od idealnog, ali ako je područje koje vas zanima i imate njemu pojma, taj prijevod odličan da vidite o čemu govornik govori.